Amancio Ortega literally slipped on concrete floors in a factory basement while earning pennies as a delivery boy. The year was 1949, and 13-year-old Ortega had just been forced to drop out of school because his family couldn't afford the fees. Instead of attending classes like other kids his age, he was working 14-hour shifts delivering clothes for local tailors in La Coruña, Spain. The irony was crushing. He spent his days handling expensive garments he could never afford, then returned each night to sleep in a cramped basement with no proper bed. But how did this teenage delivery boy sleeping on factory floors become the founder of ZARA and one of the richest people in the world? In 1949, Ortega's family was struggling to survive in post-war Spain. His father worked as a railway station master, earning barely enough to feed 4 children. When young Amancio watched his mother beg a local shopkeeper for credit to buy groceries, only to be publicly humiliated and turned away, something fundamental shifted inside him. He made a promise that day that would drive every decision for the rest of his life. No one would ever humiliate his family over money again. This moment of public shame became the fuel for one of the most successful retail empires in history. The teenage Ortega took his first job at Gala, a local clothing shop, earning just pennies per day. He swept floors, organized inventory, and watched customers browse expensive clothes he could only dream of owning. But instead of feeling sorry for himself, Ortega studied everything. How garments were constructed, which styles sold quickly, why certain designs failed. He spent his lunch breaks sketching clothing patterns and memorizing techniques local seamstresses used. His obsession with understanding every detail of the clothing business would later revolutionize how fashion reaches consumers worldwide. By age 16, Ortega had absorbed more knowledge about clothing manufacturing than many industry veterans. He convinced his sister and future wife to help him start making bathrobes and lingerie in their family kitchen. Using a borrowed sewing machine and fabric scraps from local factories, they produced their first garments by candlelight after Ortega finished his day job. The quality was surprisingly good. Ortega's years of studying construction techniques had paid off. Local stores began ordering their products, and suddenly the boy who once slept on factory floors was running his own manufacturing operation. The breakthrough came in 1963 when Ortega discovered that high-end fashion designs took months to reach Spanish stores from Paris and Milan. By the time trendy styles arrived in Spain, fashion-conscious consumers had already moved on to the next trend. Ortega saw an opportunity that would transform the entire industry. What if fashionable clothing could be designed, manufactured, and sold within weeks instead of months? This insight would become the foundation of fast fashion and revolutionize retail forever. Ortega spent 2 years perfecting his rapid production system. He studied supply chains, streamlined manufacturing processes, and developed relationships with fabric suppliers who could deliver materials within days instead of weeks. His small team worked around the clock, often sleeping in the factory to meet impossible deadlines. The former delivery boy was now orchestrating a complex operation that could produce trendy clothing faster than anyone thought possible. Traditional fashion houses were still operating on seasonal schedules, while Ortega was already planning to change styles every few weeks. In 1975, Ortega opened his first retail store in La Coruña with $1,200 in savings. He originally planned to call it Zorba, after the famous Greek character, but discovered a bar nearby already used that name. Standing outside his new shop, Ortega quickly rearranged the available letters to spell ZARA instead. This split-second decision created one of the most recognizable brand names in fashion history. The store sold affordable versions of high-fashion designs, produced quickly using Ortega's revolutionary manufacturing system. Customers were amazed to find runway-inspired styles at reasonable prices. The first ZARA store was an immediate success, but Ortega faced a new challenge, scaling his operation without losing the speed and flexibility that made it special. Traditional retailers ordered inventory months in advance, but Ortega wanted to respond to customer demand within weeks. He developed an integrated system where designers, manufacturers, and store managers communicated constantly about which styles were selling and which weren't. If a particular dress was popular in Madrid, ZARA factories could produce more within days and have it in stores across Spain within a week. Ortega's unconventional approach attracted attention from industry experts who insisted his model was unsustainable. Fashion veterans claimed that producing small batches of many different styles would be too expensive and complicated to manage. They argued that customers didn't need new styles every few weeks and that Ortega's system would collapse under its own complexity. But Ortega had spent decades studying customer behavior, and he knew something the experts didn't. People loved having fresh fashion choices and would shop more frequently when stores constantly featured new options. By 1985, ZARA had expanded to 30 stores across Spain, and Ortega was ready for international expansion. His first foreign store opened in Porto, Portugal, followed quickly by locations in New York and Paris. Fashion capitals that had previously ignored Spanish retailers were suddenly paying attention to this company that could bring runway trends to stores faster than anyone else. Ortega personally visited each new location, studying local preferences and adjusting the product mix accordingly. The delivery boy who once couldn't afford decent clothes was now competing directly with the world's most prestigious fashion brands. The 1990s brought explosive growth as ZARA expanded across Europe and into Asia. Ortega maintained his obsessive focus on speed and efficiency, often working 18-hour days to ensure every store received the right products at the right time. He refused to move company headquarters away from La Coruña, the same city where he slept on factory floors decades earlier. While competitors spent fortunes on advertising and celebrity endorsements, Ortega invested every dollar in improving his supply chain and opening new stores. His philosophy was simple: let the products and prices speak for themselves. What made Ortega's system truly revolutionary was his approach to inventory management. Traditional retailers tried to predict what customers would want months in advance, then ordered large quantities hoping to guess correctly. Ortega flipped this model by producing small quantities of many different styles, then quickly ramping up production of whatever sold well. If a particular jacket wasn't moving, ZARA could stop producing it within days and replace it with something new. This approach minimized waste and ensured stores always had fresh merchandise that customers actually wanted. The financial results were staggering. By 2000, ZARA had become Europe's largest fashion retailer, and Ortega's personal wealth had grown to over $3 billion. The teenager who once begged for work was now running a company with over 1,000 stores worldwide. But Ortega remained remarkably unchanged by his success, still working from the same modest office in La Coruña and personally reviewing sales reports from every store. His employees often spotted him walking through ZARA locations, carefully observing customer behavior and taking notes about which displays worked best. Ortega's influence extended far beyond his own company. The fast fashion model he pioneered forced every major retailer to reconsider their approach to inventory and design. Companies that had operated the same way for decades suddenly had to compete with ZARA's speed and pricing. Some traditional fashion houses dismissed fast fashion as a temporary trend, but customers clearly preferred having access to stylish, affordable clothing that changed frequently. Ortega had fundamentally altered consumer expectations about how quickly fashion should evolve. The transformation became complete in 2005, when Inditex, ZARA's parent company, went public in one of Spain's largest initial public offerings. Ortega retained majority control, but became one of the wealthiest individuals practically overnight. Stock market investors who had once ignored Spanish retailers were now eager to own shares in the company built by a former delivery boy. Financial analysts studied Ortega's methods, trying to understand how he had achieved growth rates that seemed impossible in the mature fashion industry. Today, ZARA operates over 2,000 stores in nearly 100 countries, generating annual revenues exceeding $20 billion. Ortega, now in his 80s, has stepped back from daily operations but continues influencing company strategy from his hometown of La Coruña. The boy who slept on factory floors became one of the richest people in human history by solving a simple problem: getting fashionable clothing to customers faster than anyone thought possible. His journey proves that revolutionary business ideas often come from understanding customer needs better than established experts. The lessons from Ortega's story extend far beyond fashion retail. He succeeded by questioning industry assumptions, studying customer behavior obsessively, and maintaining relentless focus on execution over marketing. While competitors spent resources on glamorous advertising campaigns, Ortega invested in unglamorous supply chain improvements that created lasting competitive advantages. His willingness to work longer hours than anyone else, combined with genuine curiosity about what customers wanted, enabled him to build something unprecedented in the fashion world. Perhaps most remarkably, Ortega achieved this transformation without abandoning his roots or forgetting the humiliation that motivated him. The same man who revolutionized global fashion still lives modestly, works constantly, and treats every business decision as if his family's survival depends on it. From sleeping on concrete floors to building a fashion empire, Amancio Ortega's journey demonstrates that the most powerful business strategies often emerge from the deepest personal experiences.